Hi, my name's Jeff Osler. I'm with a company called Hi-Fi Live. My dad was an audio guy. He was into building his own speakers. We had reel-to-reel tapes. We had a lot of records. Anyway, I grew up with a lot of audio around me. My later years, I became an audiophile. And no, I'm not ashamed of it. I became someone who loves music in all its forms. But particularly, I've really been enjoying a lot of the things that are coming and I've been able to buy that are on a vinyl record. But today, as so many, this is a response to the Washington Post article that happened over the weekend and that will be in print on Monday morning by the time you probably see this. It's also directed at the thieves at MOFI and the idiot mockers who decide to point a finger at those who have been swindled and to laugh and make fun of them and finally say, oh, how funny it is. They must not have been able to tell the difference between digital and analog. In fact, the very author of the Washington Post article, in an interview this morning with Michael 45, seemed to claim he's one of them. What a shocker given the article that was written. To start off, I'd like to say here's something that was written by Felix Richter. Date is January 12th, 2022 on the music industry. Between 2007 and 2021, album sales, and I guess they're talking just music, dropped from 501 million to 109 million according to the MRC data. LP sales, meanwhile, climbed from 2.5 million to 41.7 million, making vinyl the big winner of the streaming age, next to the streaming services, obviously. While the album has been losing relevance in recent years as streaming services push playlist-based listening, some music fans still value the work that some artists put into creating a coherent piece of art. Looking at album sales, it seems like there is significant overlap between album buyers and vinyl aficionados. Without saying that one is better than the other, listening to a vinyl album is the three-course meal to a streaming snackable 2-minute tracks. There's a time and a place for both. I'm absolutely appalled at the response to the Post article. I read comment after comment after comment, just full of glee, absolute glee, that they thought now they have it. They can come out and say, oh, geez, now definitively no one can tell the difference between analog and digital. I'm going to refute that because it's wrong. It's not true, but, if it makes them feel better to make fun of people. But I'm going to remind you of something. These are some other items that have been counterfeited through the years. Watches, handbags, purses, clothes, sneakers, movies, baseball cards, drugs, CDs, iPhones, and even electric vehicles. Can you imagine finding out that a major drug manufacturer was offering synthetic drugs to its customers, but they were charging like the drugs are and were the branded ones? Can you imagine others pointing fingers at those that claimed that they wanted the branded drugs instead of the generic label drugs and were willing to pay for them, but they were swindled? Joke on them. Oh, that's so funny. Can you imagine pointing fingers at someone who paid for a branded watch only to find out that it was a cheap knockoff? Can you imagine making fun of those who expected leather, but instead they ended up with PU or some other synthetic leather, but they were charged the price for leather? Because that's what's happened here. Basically, we have a company who, with impunity, decided, let's make fun and we will charge as if we are giving the authentic, the real thing. And then it turns out that isn't what they were doing. They were swindling people. But some will claim that what I've said now, there's no equivalency, but consider the following. In a blind A/B test, subjects cannot tell the difference between a 330 BPS music file over a 24192 or a regular compact disc file. So for all you digital people out there, or people who think, oh, I'm still an audiophile, I just think digital's great, imagine that. Because, in blind A-B tests, go read about it. That's what they claim. You cannot tell the difference between anything once it's above 330 BPS. They cannot pick out the difference in an A-B test, a difference between a compressed video file and the authentic. They cannot tell the difference in a painting and those that are counterfeited and sold. Subjects cannot tell the difference between a piece of jewelry, and so on and so on and so on. Does that mean you make fun of the people who thought they were buying an original article? But let's go even one step further, because in this, the only way you're going to tell in an A-B test on anything is if the degradation is significant, meaning the majority of people could pick out the difference in an A-B test. Not just a few, the majority of people could pick out the difference, because that's who they're usually testing in these A-B tests. Now, I've seen some, and I don't believe it at all. The truth is given time, and given that somebody can spend time with an authentic article over a period of time, and that which is fake, if they have both articles, they can tell. But now imagine that you're an audiophile. And as an audiophile, you want what's called a master tape. Everybody wants to have or hear a master tape. But the reality is most of us have never really heard a master tape. Is it possible that people can care about the original without ever actually having possessed an original? Most audiophiles dream of being able to go down and to be with Alan Sides at Ocean Way. Alan Sides brought master tapes from his Ocean Way studio a number of years ago to CES. The audio that was heard was astounding. It was unbelievable. And it made me wish at that time that I could do anything to get close and to get closer to the master tape, realizing that even in some master tapes, that the quality and what you were going to hear on the recording differ significantly. I want to say that again. In master tapes, if we were to sit down and hear different master tapes, the quality of the tapes, the actual quality of the tape that it was recorded on, the quality of how it was recorded, of who recorded it, of what happened there, differs significantly. Well, my question now is, imagine somebody and a company who claims, we're going to get you as close as possible and closer than we have ever before to the master tape. And in making that, it just turns out to be the premier storied company who started a whole industry, which is the industry that MOFI started when they decided to go back and they said, we will take and we will authenticate that we have a master tape, and now we will take from the master tapes and we will remaster, now with newer tools, with what we have available, and make as good a copy as we can of that master tape. And that's what they did for years. In fact, I bought a Parlophone set of Beatles. Had everything in it. It wasn't worth much, didn't cost much. Because the one that was worth so much and that cost so much was the Mobile Fidelity one. Mobile Fidelity led with the Rolling Stones, with so many other acts, and it was their copies. They had everything that was necessary to make for a great collectible. They had come in and they said that they worked scrupulously to authenticate that they had master tapes. I doubt that's going on, but who knows? They said after they had the master tape that it was going to go, and they had actually built their own equipment. That equipment was to be able to get a more faithful reproduction of the master. And so when they made a copy for you, it would be as close as it could be. In fact, they said they were only going to make so many copies and make it limited, because given what you have with a master tape, it could only be run, a master tape could only be run so many times. So that what you end up with in a limited series is something that will stay limited. Then you have it of iconic groups and music, and you put that together, and it seems like the perfect vehicle for what collectors were looking for. On the top shelf up here, I happened to make a deal in the 90s to get many of the Mobile Fidelity records that they had put out. I could not afford them when they first did it in the early 80s, but by the mid 90s, I'd made a goal and I wanted them. Fortunately for me, they're the Anadisc, and as far as I know, they were actually done the way that we're talking, and they are numbered, and hopefully they'll still remain to be collected and collectible. Here we have all of the Blue Note series and the things that they've been putting out. Why? Because I feel that that was authenticated. Does it have to do because I paid a lot of money for it? No. But they seem to be of that quality, and directly back behind me is Analog Productions. Underneath that, you would see is Music Matters. On the side here happens to be what they call a one-step. The one-step, which they told us and you know, they inferred what this was, it was going to be worth paying more money. There had never, for a single album, anyone come out that I was aware of and that had tried for mass distribution to put out something at $125. It was unheard of. When I first heard of this, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I thought it was a joke until I saw their diagrams, and I thought, you know what? This may not be my favorite to listen to, but it doesn't mean that it won't be the most faithful to the master tapes. I may just have to take it in the shorts. It's funny because out of the modern ones that they have, the only ones that I've really liked, grab these, were the Brothers in Arms, which happens to be digital anyway. And I thought, well, I actually have a definitive copy of Brother in Arms, and it's my favorite. It turned out to be the best. Joke was on me because, you know, I knew it was digital. Everyone knew it was digital at the time. Sorry about that. And it is, I still think it is what I have as the best. There's only a handful, I could say, of all of my Mobile Fidelities that are the best copy to listen to. When it comes to someone who digitizes and then has master tapes, I'm sorry, MOFI, but Steve Wilson has cleaned your clock. Go buy a Steve Wilson for $21 and check his out. Because if you want something that was done the way that Mobile Fidelity claims they're doing it now and that is so great and they will never go back on, you don't want Mobile Fidelity. Well, I don't want them under any circumstances now. I don't care. But if I did to Steve Wilson, and that's what I've actually listened to. I listened to Steve Wilson. I bought them. I knew they were digital. I knew that he had taken them in and had done a digital process, and I was willing to do that. Now, if in fact Steve Wilson had tried to perpetrate what MOFI did, I would feel terrible for him and for me and everyone else. I don't know that I would be pointing fingers and laughing and scoffing at those who Steve Wilson made a joke of. So, here we are now. What do we do? What do we do? Mobile Fidelity enjoyed a status that few ever achieve. And that's because they were an originator. They continued to seem to push the boundaries of what could be done. And they continued, even though, as many of you have watched videos, in shootouts that were done here on YouTube, it wasn't that often that theirs came up as the definitive copy. I hear that the Santana, they say, is. I don't know. I don't have the Santana. I didn't buy it. I didn't know about their one-steps at that time. I was busy having surgeries, and I'm sorry for this. I did have a surgery. It was a quad fusion, and they went into the front here in my neck, so don't mean to have this and gross you out, but that's what's happened. But MOFI created this market, but the same market that they created, they've taken a giant dump on. They have taken a dump on those who claim that they cared about the quality and who actually, those who championed their product. What do you think the effect's going to be? Well, my own collection's already gone down as far as Discogs is concerned. I don't have everything in there, but I noticed that as I was cataloging new records, and I had many that had come in because that's become a great hobby for me, it appeared. And I put in about 10 more records, most of them new, only to go look, and I said, that's funny. My worth overall that it shows in Discogs, at least of the median value, should be going up, and it didn't. It's gone down. I have to assume it has something to do with MOFI. We'll continue to watch, but I assume that that will continue. I also assume that those who think that they can say, hey, I'll buy expensive audio equipment, and it's just you people and you purists who think you had to have analog, that it's not going to somehow hit you people who think that high-res digital files are good. It's going to hit you too. When they took a dump, they didn't just take a dump on those of us who you think are so terrible because we like analog and that we think we can hear a difference, or we're willing to spend a lot of money on some of our gear, and we're meticulous because there's so much that goes into a hobby. As Michael 45 will tell you, it was about the whole package. And consider this, how many mobile fidelity records, one steps, their silver editions, even their SACDs, for heaven's sakes, how many of them are even opened? How many people even open them? Now that's a great collectible. And that's what happened all over. How is it in baseball cards, if someone's opened it up and they've looked at it and they mangled it, people don't seem to want it after that. How else are you going to authenticate it unless you did? But most of us didn't. You can see here, I mean, most of those are unopened. And why would I invest in them? Because it seemed like the collectible that would keep its worth. In fact, it was worth almost bragging about, hey, we're getting some respect. People are noticing now. Sound matters, and it's not just a matter of some new cheap technology that's done it. But now what I fear is that what we're going to be reduced to is, why does anybody spend much money on any audio? I mean, for $50, you can get a great pair of earbuds. You got a phone. What more do you need? Heck, I'll bet you that if I put stuff on that, you can't tell the difference, between that and a good headphone. I'll bet you can't tell the difference between that and good speakers, because that's where it goes. I mean, I have people who tell me, and this is the rub, you need to understand this. When I bring people and they see speakers, they go, I haven't seen speakers big like that for a long time. And then they say this, well, I can't tell the difference between one and another. I don't know if they can't tell or they don't care to tell, but that's where we're at. If they say they can't tell a difference in speakers, which to all of us would say there is a difference, then what is it we've really been doing? Because we actually pulled in other generations who were getting into this hobby. Well, I'm still debating whether I want to do a class action suit. They asked today, they says, well, if you do a class action suit, what do you want? I'll tell you what I want. I want my hobby back. I want all my money back. But it's going to be a cold day in hell before I'll ever consider buying anything from the swindlers at MOFI. Yeah, Jim Davis, I'm talking about you. You made millions and millions off all the dupes you found. Boy, you were able to just sell and swindle all of us so well, weren't you? I'll bet you that you're as proud as the people that comment and make comments in the section of the post, and how proud they are pointing their fingers at all the stupid people and what dupes they were and how swindles and they're idiots because, geez, they didn't even know the difference. The difference between what? I never had you didn't give me a choice. Give me a choice and let's see if we can. If you really want to see if someone can do it, but beyond that, who cares? If I'm paying for a brand name or I think I'm paying for something and that's what it's represented, then a lot of the worth has to do that. With it. There are some people who paint. They may not be as good as other painters who can even copy works. But guess what? I still want the original. I still would like the original from the artist who did it. Even if another artist goes even a better artist or hey, they could paint the same scene better. It just all seems ridiculous to me. So now I'm going to end it. I just thought this view should be told, because I've never seen anything like this, that the story supposed to be that a major company swindled thousands of people, but we make fun of those who were swindled. Good one.